Good afternoon to all our listeners and viewers of the NDC Heartbeat podcast. We're happy to welcome all those who are listening on radio via WeFM, Vibes FM, Spice Capital Radio. We've got 100.5 FM out of Labby in Grenville. We've got Rampoon Radio out of Delaware in the United States, and several other stations picking up the Heartbeat on a Sunday afternoon. Albeit a little bit rainy, but we welcome the rain. Matter of fact, right now I could do it a lot more of it. Anyhow, this is your program for today. We have in studio the Honorable Ron Redhead. He's the MP for St. George Northeast, and we'll be chatting on several topics of interest to you and others, of course. So what we'll do, we'll just take a short break, take an ad, and get right back to you. See you in a moment.
Grenada Day 2026 is on Sunday, August 23rd at an all-new venue, South Shore High School Field, 6565 Flatlands Avenue, between Ralph Avenue and East 78th Street. Entrance on Glenwood Road, exit on Flatlands Avenue. There we go. New venue, but the same vibes. This year's Grenada Day features arts, crafts, tasty food, and music, plus performances from some of Grenada's top artists, including the veteran inspector, Young Image, Mauricia, Camille, Mr. Legs, Alma Boy, King Blake, King Kayak, and big surprises from Grenada, plus Spice Generation Dance Company, Carrico Big Drum Crew, the Greenhouse Drummers, and more. Sunday, August 23rd, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tickets are only $10. Available online at www.grenadaday2026.eventbrite.com, or you can grab your tickets at La Bay Market, Yours and Mine Beauty Salon, West Cuisine, or Palms Beauty Shop. Grenada Day 2026 is sponsored by Ariza Credit Union, Williams Funeral Services, Grenada Cooperative Bank, La Bay Market, ACB Bank, Woolpot Bond Grill, Appleback, Star FM, and Crossroads Radio. Grenada Day 2026 is on Sunday, August 23rd. Come out and represent.
Welcome back to the NDC podcast for another beautiful Sunday afternoon in Grenada. It's a little bit cloudy outside, and we're praying for more rain in the south. I know those out in the north and let's say the west, they probably had enough. But we could do some more in the south. Anyhow, we have in studio with us the MP for St. George Northeast, the Honorable Ron Redhead, and we'll be chatting about several matters. First up, I want to just ask you about the VAT-free days that I noticed the Ministry of Finance has recently promoted.
Right. And so, Brother Terry, as you know, the VAT-free shopping days would be a part of government's own response, so to speak, to a number of cost of living concerns, specific to the question of food prices and also the question of energy prices. So it's a combination of the VAT-free days plus additional subsidies as it relates to Grenlec. But the schedule for the VAT-free days, the first ever, is going to be August 28th to the 29th, 2026. So at the end of this month, starting at the end of this month, August, we will see that. So the 28th to the 29th. The second month, which is September, is going to be from the 25th to the 26th. And then, of course, ending in October, is going to be from the 30th of October to the 31st of October. And the qualifying items, so to speak, will relate to groceries, essential food items, school supplies, books, uniforms, and clothing, household goods, appliances, electronics, and hardware. You have some luxury items like motor vehicles, and in a sense, boats, they are excluded. So they are not part of the VAT-free shopping days as expected. But, you know, things like laptops, all these other things, they are a part of it, devices, etc. So the information in terms of where to shop, you could be able to find that the Ministry of Finance have put that out. And particularly IRD will have the specific information on VAT-compliant businesses to which it has circulated. It is online, it's on social media. It was released on at least one newspaper, I saw it, through the Ministry of Finance. I think it's Grenadian Voice, stand to be corrected, but it's there, and the information is accessible, widely circulated, as I said. Even the page of the Honorable Prime Minister, they also put out some information on where we can shop on those VAT.
I mean, this is a great initiative, tell us what really inspired this by the Cabinet of Grenada.
Right. Well, the Cabinet certainly has been monitoring the situation from time immemorial, in particular coming from post-Hurricane Beryl. The Honorable Prime Minister was keen to ensure that Grenada did not have to enter into any new loans as part of our recovery efforts from Hurricane Beryl, and therefore what we would do is strategically so plan out how we, in a sense, chug along and ensure that the recovery would be handled from our internal efforts as much as possible, and the external factors that are influencing prices, etc., that we would monitor it, we would strategize, and we'll come up with creative ways to see how we mitigate cost for different citizens throughout. And this is just another example as to some of the things that we have done to be able to cushion the impact of the high cost of living, largely due to the conflicts ongoing in the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf, which we have absolutely no control over. And as you know, most of the times when we import some of the goods, they are largely subjected to external factors of market forces, which we domestically cannot control. And therefore, what we are working is the question of the taxes, to be able to reduce that as to the final cost for the consumer. And so the government is foregoing, so to speak, roughly about $8 million in taxes for those 3 VAT-free shopping days.
And this has nothing to do with the already deduction in gasoline?
No. And so while related, it still has to be looked at separately, because what we are doing is to now provide subsidies in the tune of $10 million. So altogether, everything is estimated to be $18 million in terms of the relief package as it relates to cost of living. To what Grenlec, particularly, I don't have the information now in front of me as it relates to Grenlec. Hopefully we can continuously publish that in the coming weeks to be able to inform Grenadians as to the benefits that will be derived from these cost of living reduction measures by the government of Grenada, Ministry of Finance to be exact, on the question now of energy. Because energy costs, as you know, is probably one of the most erratic one in terms of fluctuations, right? Globally, which is largely influenced by a lot of some of the upheavals that we have seen. Again, we have no direct control over those as well. And so oftentimes it is very limited in terms of what we can do, because the dependence on the fuel to be able to run the generators and supply energy nationally is a big one. And so what we have been doing, notwithstanding those challenges, because I think we know and see all of those challenges, is to simultaneously, while we give this relief on this end, is to work on how we diversify and strengthen the economy and reduce some of the dependence on those uncertainties and externalities. It's a difficult task. We wouldn't sit here to pretend, but it's something that is absolutely necessary. And in the last 4.5 years, notwithstanding that, you know, relatively, it's not a long period, but we have been able to, in a sense, plan out some long-term measures that is going to ultimately help improve the conditions to which we are currently operating from an economic standpoint in terms of importation of fuel and food prices.
Right. Well, that kind of segue us into the economy.
Yes.
And I know that the IMF gave a very favorable report a couple of months ago on the performance of the Grenada economy.
Yes.
Do you want to share with us how this is performing, how it's playing out?
Well, certainly. And, you know, they're related, because one cannot talk about the question of cost of living, i.e. inflation, without talking about the performance of the economy. And notwithstanding the fact that relatively inflation has been about 0.7% in Grenada this year, or will round off thereabout based on estimation, the growth of the economy still remains in play. And so this is good, because normally if inflation increases for whatever reason, whether external or internal, you normally see a corresponding trend, which is that the economy start going down because prices getting inflated, you know, cost of living is getting spiraling out of control. But this is not the case in this instance with Grenada. And it's estimated to, in a sense, next year, as a result of all the global upheavals, to, let's say, balloon up to about 1.2% thereabout. But it's still well within the range globally. as an accepted rate of inflation in terms of a manageable rate of inflation. And understanding it from that context will allow us now to see how we plan going forward. So the economy of Grenada is performing well. Unemployment is also down. Again, there are still some elements of structural unemployment where people who just simply do not want to get up and work are still remaining, in a sense, on that list, so to speak, of actively looking for work. But even when they get the work, maybe the pay is not enough, etc. So they don't take it and they often sit back and in a sense have to go through that experience. But there are a large number of people who are actively looking for work. Work is available, but they may not be qualified. So one of the things that we have been doing over the last 4 years is to ensure that we observe from an economic standpoint, what are the tenets that make a successful Grenadian man and woman, despite their age? Education, obviously, is a major one. And we've had to look at the elements of education. That is the question of tuition fees on one end, and then also the question of access to education. And then also, finally, when you look at education, not just in its formal sense, but the question of the skills and the centers of excellence. So we are confident that we have done all the work now, and we will be rolling out the centers of excellence over the next period, 2026, 2027, and it will be beneficial, not just to a handful of Grenadians, but certainly the future of Grenadians, particularly those who may not find comfort in the formal sector of education, but they can then utilize their skills to be able to generate and earn money.
How well would you say the government has done with respect to laying the foundation over the past 4 years to ensure that we improve education, skills training is obviously introduced, and that we can prepare the Grenadian worker for work opportunities?
The government has done well, Terry. Again, I always say there's room for all improvement, always in anything that you do, but the government so far has done well. And I would dare say that we have been, in a sense, impacted by Hurricane Beryl slightly. It did, in a sense, shift focus temporarily on the question of recovery and so on. So a lot of the spending over 2024 to 25 had to go into that question of ensuring that the recovery was going to happen, particularly with Carriacou Pitimatnik, and that we would not see a situation where Carriacou slumps and then Grenada, as a result, was slumping. As you know, Terry, Carriacou is now on the rebound by a great deal, far better than before Hurricane Beryl. Yeah. And so when we talk about the question of education now, in terms of laying that foundation, we see that despite that challenge of 2024 Beryl, we were able to stabilize a lot of things. The government was able to roll out successfully its free tuition program. The government was able to roll out successfully the question of the e-books and the devices, not giving this heavy Thor hammers that the children had to carry in the past, but giving something a bit more accepted as a device that any Grenadian student would be able to carry, in a bag or a laptop case freely, and be able to access the e-books, which is much better and easier for them to access. And it helps to reduce the cost collectively as to what we had to pay for books. And it is something that we need to continuously discuss about. There was some suppliers, for example, that, in a sense, raised genuine concerns that if books stop sell, that they may have to relook their strategy. So what I would say is we would encourage that question of diversifying the business and having the discussion in an open and transparent manner. You don't need to be upset in any way, shape or form, because this is a government that listens, right? And so what we ultimately want to do over the next number of years is to reduce the question of cost for education so that we can improve the access to education.
Perfect. You mentioned Carriacou a short while ago, and that leads me, therefore, to what appears to be a burning issue with the Korean family in Carriacou and the land surrounding the port in Carriacou.
Right.
Because there be a lot of talk on social media from non-Grenadians who have boats there and so forth. What is really the issue out there, and how is government looking at it?
Well, I'm not following it 100%, but I would say that it's an unfortunate situation. Certainly, as a member of parliament, I know how it is. I empathize with private individuals who may be stuck in this debacle, and I'm praying for a solution as soon as possible. But in looking at the history of the issue, clearly it's an era of poor decision of the past. And we see these multiple errors in terms of the sale of the property coming back to bite us. Now, on a popular basis, you may be able to say it was a popular decision that may have brought you some kind of support, whether or not that could be proven. But the point is, these bad decisions of the past are coming back to haunt us. And I don't mean to jump from that, but just to see, for example, the oil and gas is another example of bad decisions. 18 years, Brother Terry, is just too much to not have some kind of benefit to the Grenadian people as a result of making a decision. And so, you know, where we sit as government, we continue to work extremely hard to, in a sense, rewrite the wrongs and pivot Grenada into the direction it ought to go. But it's very, very difficult in some instances when these bad decisions were made in the past, and the solution often will take a mammoth effort sometimes to be able to resolve. But we are looking forward to a resolution, and so that everyone can move forward in peace. That's what I would say on the matter, because I think it's going to be a legal matter at the end of the day, and something to which the government may not be able to get into.
Well, there was a full article written in the New Today newspaper, which indicates that there has been a decision taken by the court in the UK.
Right.
The Privy Council.
Privy Council.
Indicating very clearly that the land was private, that the owners indicated to the developer that this is private land and you cannot occupy. But the previous government bulldozed its way and said, yes, we're going to take it, without going through the proper channel of using the Expropriation Act,
Right.
which in this case can't apply, because the Expropriation Act only allows government to take someone's land if it is for public use and to be compensated fairly.
Correct. Right.
In this case, this is not for public use. This is for private use. So it's very unfortunate that Grenada is now facing this dilemma and getting bad publicity as a result of poor decisions taken in the past.
Poor decisions. And, you know, this whole question of acquisition of property, etc., it is a long historical problem with the past administration, I dare say. We have a situation, for example, the Lamode playing field, as much as we are working towards ensuring that it's enhanced, etc. Just the other day, I was met with a letter from the real owners of the property stating a clear fact that they have not been compensated since 2002, thereabouts.
But the Act says prompt and fair settlement.
That is the problem. And so, to a large extent, when we talk about poor decisions, this is why I say, Brother Terry, you know, when I listen to some of the criticisms toward the government over decisions, it's not fair, but it's understood, because people have a right to express their views. People have a right to question their governments, right? This administration is very keen on that. We have not brought any legal matter to any journalists and to any want-to-be journalists. We've not brought any legal matters to them as a government or party, simply because people have a right to question their public officials, right? So let's get that clear. But when it comes to decision-making, as of now, I am going to encourage Grenadians to get a lot more serious and understand what the implications will be of the decisions that we are making as a country. Because to put all of these things into perspective is not going to be done in this program. Of course, we had to have a different conversation over that. But the point is, when you look at the collective bad decisions historically, it has not benefited us in the way or manner we expected them to benefit us. And then now, coming into government for years or so now, we have had to, in a sense, correct a number of these decisions. And whether or not we want to accept it, the reality is a lot of the problems that we face today is as a result of long-term, prolonged bad decisions that were made. You know, whether deliberate in some instances, again, whether just to exploit the political situation. Those were some of the concerns. But by and large, these are issues that are slowly becoming a thing of the past. I can tell you, for example, Transparency International has rated Grenada over the last 4 years at least 3 points better as it relates to corruption than we met it. So notwithstanding, you hear this continuous criticism by people utilizing fake pages, etc., about corruption and corruption and corruption. The fact of the matter is, nationally, and I dare say internationally, Grenada's picture of corruption is slowly improving. I make this point not so much to dwell on it, because that in and of itself can't change the price of sugar. But the point is to say that you have an administration that is keen on ensuring that we develop the country, but do so in the right way. So decisions like that with the marina, it's an unfortunate situation, and one again which we really hope could be resolved through the legal channels.
Yes, indeed. The matter, of course, went to court, and a decision was clearly made.
Yeah.
What this is saying, therefore, is that this is most likely going to fall somewhere back either in the hands of the developer, or government may have to eventually intervene.
Right. Well, I wouldn't want to get into what the government may have to do, but
leave that alone.
Certainly.
But it's important that the public gets to understand.
Yeah.
Because many a time people see stuff or they read stuff on social media which sometimes has its own leaning.
Yes.
And they don't have all the facts. And because of not having all the facts, they come up with their own conclusions.
Right.
So it's important that they understand that the lands there originally was private lands.
Right. Never public property.
It was never public property.
Yeah.
And these private owners went to the developer and said, "This is my land, do not build on my land." They proceeded.
Yeah.
The previous government then decided, we're going to take the land and give you a lease.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more madness can this be?
Well, I mean, again, when you look at the question of oil and gas, and as to how it was being handled, 18 years, we have yet to see anything substantive. Even the so-called $19 million that is spoken about that was paid, to date, the government of Grenada does not have any clear evidence that it is there. Now, it may be there, as you heard from the Technical Working Group Chairman, Brother Nazim Burke, and the Prime Minister. But the point is, to this date, having investigated, we have not seen that. And so it brings to the question this whole concern about how public resources, and we could talk about land, thereabout, right? What is the government's policy, for example, on land use? Are we getting to the point where we can see acquisitions and so on that are being done? We can see a genuine form of for productive capacity. So you talk about farming, you talk about what is happening with the Project Polaris, right? We acquired this property, we've already paid substantial amount on it, and the intention is that we are going to build out our new teaching hospital. So here, with this administration, you see the difference. It's open, it's clear, the information is there, anyone can cross-check it, anyone can write to the Ministry of Finance seeking information through whatever means, right? The media, the opposition, whomever, even the CSO, that's or the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, they have a right to write for information and should be given responses accordingly. The point I'm making is that today it's a lot more transparent, because the resources of the state at the end of the day belongs to the people of the state. It's just like this issue with the question of housing. We often have to assist vast majority of Grenadians, and since we've came in, I have lost track as the amount of people that we've assisted. But we have to assist Grenadians with housing. But this is use of taxpayers' money. It's not my private resources. And so when we talk about how government moves these things forward, we often need to look at what is justifiably the role of government, as opposed to, how do we create the enabling conditions for you yourself to build a home, that sort of thing. And again, drawing back to that same example you gave with Karakou, clearly the role of government was misused then, right? And so decisions we make now will have far-reaching implications, whether now or in the future, in terms of our development. But we must always seek to make the right decisions for the benefit of the country.
Absolutely so indeed. And the public must know and understand that there is an act, Land Acquisition Act. A government, any government, can acquire a piece of land from any citizen. But there is a big but in capital letters.
Yeah.
It must be for public use.
Correct.
And furthermore, that landowner must be compensated promptly and fairly. So if you come and take my piece of land because you want to extend the road, that is for public use, then I expect compensation.
Correct. Correct.
But you can't take my private land and give it to another private man so he could do his business. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy.
That is the kind of things that existed in the past. And you notice, Brother Terry, we're on our show, so I could be as candid as possible. The opposition is very silent on those matters.
Well, they can't speak.
Right? They're not talking about oil and gas. They're starting to come and talk about, people business, and you see all the fake pages post a set of thing and about who do this and who say this and some of the trivial matters. They're not talking about oil and gas. They're not talking about this bad decision. They're not talking about historically. Grenada is just not in a position now, even after 4 years of the National Democratic Congress, to be able to independently withstand some of these external shocks, simply because we have not invested sufficiently over the many years in the diversification and enhancement of our economy.
Yep.
So they're not talking about these things, but they're very easy to point out, we have this, we have high cost, we have this, we have that. Only things that appeal to the emotion and then try to get people riled up to turn around to blame a politician or a government as a result of bad decisions. So, one of the solutions, which I think we need to get to, and this administration is keen on, is ensuring that we now going forward will have people's participation. You see that element, Brother Terry, of the People's Manifesto put on by the National Democratic Congress? Don't look at it lightly. This is going to help us now, collectively, over the next 5 years, decide on what we want to do as a nation or as a people, various communities, villages, etc. Implement it. But not just implemented by the government sitting on a pedestal and the people below there begging and so on, but implemented together. People's participation must mean something more than just the words. There must be a mechanism where the people now can then participate in the process of implementing decisions that the government collectively have to make. Because when we analyze historically, Grenada has been limping along in that regard. We talk a lot about democracy, but ask yourself the question, are the teachers in TAMCC involved in charting the course as to where TAMCC need to go? Are they being engaged, so to speak, to say, we should implement this course, we should implement that short-term course, etc.? Is that discussion happening? Maybe it's happening, but more of that needs to happen. Because if you join an institution, government department or so, there must be a way where you, as a staff member, can be able to meet senior leaders and give your input, share your ideas, and participate. That is what democracy is about. And so when we talk about how do we develop Grenada over the next 5 years, this is one single element that we are confident in the National Democratic Congress can work to enhance the further development by having and including people, not just word of mouth, and when an election come around, you're trying to organize them to vote for me, give me a vote. You're walking up and down. And after that, in a sense, you can't see them. You don't know what is happening. When time to vote on a bill, everybody just saying, aye, nobody giving a contribution, nobody debating, etc., and discussing and trying to enlighten Grenadians as to what is going on. So there must be a mechanism, we are saying, in 2027, where Grenadians should be able to participate. And by that, I am saying to Grenadians, you therefore have to ensure that you're voting the National Democratic Congress to have that become a reality. Because when it came to pension, we didn't pretend. We paid it. That's a retroactive. And we have done so consistently since coming into office. There have never been no bobbing and weaving and juxtapositioning as to people's resources. Somebody work, Brother Terry, they must be duly compensated. Somebody land is acquired, they must be duly compensated. Simple. right? And we have stuck to that as best as possible. So, as it relates to the overall performance of the government over the last 4 years or so, we believe we are in a strong position, not just to make the case for the second term, for re-election, but to do so with an overwhelming mandate. The question we have to ask ourselves is that should we continue developing the country in the way where 15 or so men and women sit at the lower house of parliament, in a sense, make all the decisions by passing of legislation, etc., and not have our people participating in the process? That is the question we need to answer. And then how?
And of course, a first step has been taken by the party with respect to people's participation in the upcoming manifesto.
Correct.
But I also want to touch a little bit on the road resurfacing, which started from Point Celine.
Yes.
And it is now all the way close, nearing the roundabout by McIntyre Brothers.
Correct.
They're going at a rate.
They're going at a rate.
What I observed and what I've been picking up is that the opposition is complaining that the company out of Trinidad have their own trucks and their own workers and only a few Grenadians get work and that sort of thing. Forgetting that there has been a creative financing package attached to this project, whereby the company is paying to do the road and government is repaying over a period of time.
That's correct.
Now, tell me which company in Grenada has this financial strength and capacity to undertake such a project?
Well, and almost nil, right? You may have 2 large ones, but that is about it.
Well,
and so
but not only that, their hands are filled.
Well, that is the point. They are also involved in private jobs.
A lot of private jobs, they can't
and so
undertake
the capacity to be able to deliver for the state is very limited. And Brother Terry, I think, oftentimes we need to have these serious conversations, because too often, sometimes I get the sense that, we have all the strength to cuss a politician on Facebook and say all manner of disrespectful things about politicians on Facebook. But when it comes to making a sound decision and the best decision at the given time, we are very limited in terms of our own contribution and then resort to what somebody's telling us and so on. You see, this time around, we must look at what is happening. Forget the noise. The noise in the market is not a seal of fish. Because what has been happening is that the opposition forces, and you have a number of parties, they have been coming out to criticize the design, build, finance model. But the point is, for every Grenadian who's now passing down on the south where you spoke about, we can see with our own 2 eyes that road is being built at record timing and is being done so in a manner that is going to facilitate our development going forward, which is the vehicles that have to now transport their goods and so on. They no longer have to complain too much about the shocks and the state of the road and going down in all kind of pothole. The buses that are traversing to go and pick up and drop citizens back and forth could now feel a lot more comfortable in plying the route, because the route is much more stable. This is not only starting down on the stretch there from Morris Bishop International, it's going all the way up to Westall, right? We also have packages as announced by the Minister of Infrastructure, the Honorable Prime Minister, in Tempe to Mount Kuma, for example. We have packages in other locations. The point about it is the development of roads help to facilitate economic development. But the problem and challenge we've had over the many years is the capacity. This administration came in and in 4 years, or less than 4 years, was able to introduce a new technology, which is the pothole patcher truck. So when we talk about the government's own ability to develop and transform and so on, and we ain't doing this and we ain't doing that, the point about it is, yes, there's always room for improvement, and there's more that we can do and more that we will do. But we are doing. And as it relates to the build, design, finance model, the benefit of it, now maybe there are some drawbacks, which I want to think that people may talk maybe about source of funding, that sort of thing. And I'm speaking purely from a professional standpoint. That is a concern that has to be addressed, and I think that is a concern that will be addressed, because any company coming in, due diligence must be done on them, right? So there's no question about that. But the element of the concern that is being raised about not having local contractors is not true. I have at least 4 projects ongoing in my constituency smaller projects outside of the larger one in Constantine Willis. And they're all being done by small contractors, local men who have their teams and they're working.
You could hardly get local workers.
But that's the point. And the point is we have not stopped getting local men. All the houses that are being built, all the private construction that is going on in the country day by day, it is being done largely by local men and women up by that same Constantine. Opposite to it, in terms of the entrance at Cuffs Avenue, where we are turning that area into a roundabout, the adjacent building that is being constructed is being done by a local contractor, and local men and women throughout my constituency are working there. So the point is, work is ongoing for everyone. But the magnitude of the work, the capacity, the need to do this on a large scale, that is now being transformed in terms of the model that we have undertaken. Because I can tell you, if we had left that just for local contractors to do, no offense to them, we might have been able to get from Morris Bishop up probably to the police camp, thereabout, right? And I could tell you, we'd have limitation, complaint, so on. You can look at the example in my constituency. A local contractor is doing the work there. I am told that he is the best for laying pipes. Now, if I am to compare what I am seeing versus what I am being told, the eating is in the pudding. And so I am very critical of this specific project, not because they are not meeting their demands, I think they are stretched, but because the way in which the project is being done, it shows a lack of capacity. And then the other element I have observed is clear cases of ignorance, which is to just refuse any assistance, any support, any mechanism to try and collaborate to meet this target and situation. In fact, I've been told that NAWASA has enforced one of the most lethal conditions to the contractor as a result of this over scheduled time and not being able to complete it on time. So we have some concerns genuinely. And it is not fair to say, well, you must criticize a politician for bringing in people with the capacity and the capital to do work much faster so that we could move our development along much faster. And when you do bad work locally, the politician cannot criticize. We must be able to talk fairly. I will not sit as a member of parliament and complain about Grenadians and so on, because I think we can work together locally. But when we are doing something that is not in the best interest, we must criticize it. And I am not satisfied to date that this has taken so long and the road is not being paved. Reno is ready to go. We want to continue developing roads throughout the length and breadth of our constituency. But again, even with the Willis Road, pipes have to be laid. So there is this semblance of slow, lethargic delay, whether deliberate or not, or otherwise, to also, in a sense, make the thing look as if it's contradictory. The government is talking about development, and on one hand, people not seeing it. But those who see, no. Look at the Cliff Road, for example. That's another example. It just took too long.
Yep.
Right? And too much excuses at different intervals were given as it relates to this project. Now, I am saying this. Anytime you see people always quick to listen to respond, they ain't going no way. We must never, as a Grenadian society, be so quick to respond. We must listen to understand.
Not listen to respond.
That is the point about it.
Listen to understand.
Listen to understand.
That kind of song like Shakespeare.
Well, I can assure you I'm no Shakespeare. So the point is, when we are talking about road development in the country, yes, there are people with experiences. But the experience we have largely with them is where you had that old era of a set of bad decision being taken and things going slow. Years you're taking just to build a stretch of road. Look, these people come just the other day and look how much space they're making in this short space of time. And if I am to say how my tax dollars are being spent, because I'm a taxpayer too, irrespective of if I'm involved in the executive, I would rather see my taxpaying dollars spent like that with some speed, where we can then install things. Grenada is now lifting. We're looking a little more than a third world country. And we're developing, as opposed to every day, every week you're visiting a project, the same pace, the same energy, complain, bad decisions, low productivity levels. We can't keep continuing like that. Because I can tell you this, when we came into office, and I want to talk and put the roads into perspective, right? Boise sang it. Even Dash sing about road this year for Carnival. When we put this thing into perspective, when we came in, there was a Monkuma Road, Bereteri. And I want Grenadians to understand this. And this is no attack on any local contractors. Because I can tell you in this instance, I engaged a local contractor and he was very willing to listen and to offer, even in some instances, to get young men to come in to get work, to get employment, that sort of thing. But when we came in, we had some concerns in terms of how things were done. There are still residents who are complaining, based on how the cliff was cut, in terms of the slope, that their homes are destabilized as a result. So we still have that to consider. We need to be doing the gabion basket and so on. These things cost a lot. In other words, if we had just made the right decision and engaged people in a better way, without trying to expedite political gains, we would have gone much further. But this rush, this is why I say for me, when I look at development Bereteri, I am satisfied that this administration is taking a good look at what is to be done as it relates to infrastructure. And no matter the approach might be slow for some, the results or the outcome at the end of the day is far better. I rather take 3 hours to sharpen the axe and 1 hour, half an hour to cut down the tree. Right? Simple as that. So this is how I see what is happening as it relates to our roads being done. You will always get criticism. And you'll always try to see and find people trying to blame an individual politician as a result of these things. These things go through procurement. We, as politicians, members of parliament, do not have any direct contact with what is going on with contract and so on. It's almost impossible. So it's ludicrous when I hear some people criticize and say we're getting personally involved. It's totally different, right? But what we can do most times is to provide leadership to ensure that the RGPF is engaged. So if we need to block off the road and reroute traffic, we can do so in a timely fashion and in an organized way. So people are not left limping to say, well, I didn't know here was blocked this morning, that sort of thing. So we've had some challenges with that, I must confess, with some of the larger projects. But by and large, we've tried to, as members of parliament, I can speak for the South, St. David, Northeast, even in Carriacou, always intervene to ensure that there is collaboration among stakeholders to ensure that the motoring public and pedestrians are informed in a timely fashion. In some instances, we have had to trek along because the rain patterns very inconsistent these days. Some instances you don't get rain at all and you can do work, but other instances you get severe rainfall and it's causing some delays. Other elements are external factors and so on. But the point is, I saw a recent video with a prospective candidate for the opposition criticizing some bridge. Well, where you come out? This bridge should have been done since 20-something. I mean, you come in and talk as if, well, 2 or 3 months delay. The delay was as a result of cement or something like that, shortage of cement on the island, which is a normal shortage that we have relating to construction, and which is happening now maybe at a faster rate simply because we have an expanded construction sector taking place, both the private sector and the public sector. There is an expanded construction number of activities taking place, both from a private and public standpoint. So you will have these shortages because Grenada is not mass producing cement locally. And therefore, to give the impression somehow that we have control over the aggregates and we just need to get the work done and so, I mean, it's just silly. And it sounds uninformed. And so I always often say, when I joined the National Democratic Congress in 2013, it took me almost 9 years to come to the level of national, simply because I didn't join with the intention to feel as if I know everything and I join in and just bashing people and so on. I talked to people. Bereteri, I talked to opponents, I spoke to friends and foe alike. One recommendation that was made by the then deputy leader, which was Joseph Andal, the Honorable Joseph Andal at the time, he said to me, make your own friends. And that's a lesson that I have learned since coming into the politics. In other words, you get a wider perspective if you speak to all kind of people. But to give this irrational explanation as to why something not going forward, and you're trying to look for votes as a result of that. I mean, people who are realistic seeing through this thing. So the point about it is, I want Grenadians to understand what is ongoing here now is revolutionary in the context that it has not been done a long time. But what we are getting as a result, the outcome, is far better than we would have gotten had we continued with the old way, and if we return to the old way whenever the general election is called.
All right. Now, segueing onto the government's decision of training for our people in skills.
Right.
This is probably a great opportunity for the few road developers that we have in Grenada to partner or to learn or to find out how can I be as good as you are in what you are doing as a foreign contractor. The kind of equipment that was never in Grenada.
That's the point.
Ripping up the road, using back the material, boosting it up with asphalt, and yeah, I mean, this is revolutionary.
Of course. And
so this is an opportunity for our existing road builders to maybe, government may wish to intervene.
So that is certainly a conversation
to partner with these people in learning how they, because they ain't going to be here forever.
That is correct.
The Grenadian road contractors will be here. They now need to take advantage of this learning curve, get the appropriate equipment, maybe even negotiate with them when they're going back. Well, let me buy this from you. So then we are putting road construction onto a different pedestal.
You're correct. And so just to put it bluntly, what needs to happen here now is that we need to see that vision to make it a reality.
Exactly.
So I know of at least one of these mega-sized contractors who are here has indicated that he is willing to teach and to train.
Yeah.
Right? This is critical because, Brother Terry, TAMCC is now offering the element of entrepreneurship. A contractor may not be a good business manager and decision maker, but he or she can learn. You know, oftentimes when you are in construction, you do your thing on your own, right? And you get your skills. Some people may professionalize it. Some people may just do it on a whim of trial and error, but they then turn out good. The point about it is, in order to move to the next stage or level, you need to consistently improve your capacity and ability to get better at what you do. So oftentimes when I meet contractors and they would say to me, well, I want this project, please now, help me get it now, or put in a word, etc. Yes, I can do that. I ain't hiding that. I can do that. And I can ask, I can negotiate, I can write, I can make a recommendation. But the point is, you as a contractor need to ensure that you're up to standard and up to level. How you get there? Getting access to training, getting access to information. And a key thing is knowing how to manage your money. Not many contractors, local contractors in Grenada, have the ability to fund a project and receive payments afterward. Not many of them. And simply because, by and large, the trade has been created in such a way where the government often just help set up small contractors, they give them the money, they deliver. Beyond that, they always have to come back to the government because they don't have revenue or capital to go now and do private jobs and sustain the business. That is the concern. And so when we talk about establishing contractors, what we need to get at is not establishing contractors just to build roads for the government of Grenada, but establishing contractors who can now transition into good businessmen, who can sustain their business. Because guess what? In 20 years from now, the same roads Renault is building, the same roads Namalco, Calco is building, they will have to be maintained.
Well, not only that, new roads would have to be built.
New roads would have to be constructed throughout the length and breadth of the country.
And you can't consider a small piece of road taking 3 years.
That is a problem.
You see?
That is a problem.
We have to
Time
accept
is money.
reality.
Time is money. That is a problem. So it is not the politician who ain't like the local man and so on. You hear some of these criticisms. It is our collective will to get better, so that from government standpoint, yes, government must learn to pay on time. And I am sitting here and pretending that there have not been some concerns and delays, whether it is in some instances as a result of the new system or otherwise. The point is, government have to make sure that the capital is flowing, and it is flowing almost simultaneously with when work is being done, certainly for the local contractors. No questions there. But a local contractor must learn now to get to the point where him or her, or based on the business setup, can manage the business in such a way that they are able to fund some of these things on their own so that they can always have the businesses going. Now, the other aspect or element to it is, Brother Terry, remember, you may have a contractor, but he needs workers. You need a foreman, he needs steel men, etc., etc. The fact of the matter is we need now consistently as a nation to be turning that out. The question is, if our young men only want to sit on the block, gamble, just go in the car and relax whole day, you know, where are you getting the workers? Now, I could go into the construction field. I have no problem with that because I do that already. I paint, I live cement bucket, etc. But the point is this the best use of my effort? If, in fact, I might be, let's say, a better person in maintaining vehicles, right? That sort of thing. So the point is, there are people cut out for it. But they must start to show the interest. Where do you want to go? You should say, my goal is to learn construction, but I want to be a contractor one day. And you then chart your plan and you work towards it. I mentioned to you that it took me 9 years to get to the level in terms of politics. I joined NDC in 2013, officially. But I was always an avid supporter since 2003 as a young person. The point is, in getting there, we had to work out a plan. And that's what I want the young contractors to do in Grenada. Work out your plan, how you develop.
Absolutely. Well, this got a little bit heated, but we need to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Definitely.
Some people and them. Grenada Day 2026 is on. Sunday, August 23rd at an all-new venue, South Shore High School Field, 6565 Flatlands Avenue, between Ralph Avenue and East 78th Street. Entrance on Deadwood Road, exit on Flatlands Avenue. New venue, but the same vibes. This year's Grenada Day features arts, crafts, tasty food, and music, plus performances from some of Grenada's top artists, including the veteran inspector, Young Image, Mauricia, Camille, Mr. Legs, Alma Boy, King Blake, King Kayak, and big surprises from Grenada, plus Spice Generation Dance Company, Carrico Big Drum Group, the Greenhouse Drummers, and more. Sunday, August 23rd, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tickets are only $10. Available online at www.grenada2026.eventbrite.com, or you can grab your tickets at La Bay Market, Yours and Mine Beauty Salon, West Cuisine, or Palms Beauty Shop. Grenada Day 2026 is sponsored by Ariza Credit Union, Williams Funeral Services, Grenada Cooperative Bank, La Bay Market, ACB Bank, Holpot Barn Grill, Apple Bank, Star FM, and Crossroads Radio. Grenada Day 2026 is on Sunday, August 23rd. Come out and represent. I want to know.
They want to come back. They want to come back. Emlyn want to come back. Cox want to come back. Right now, they said Cherry want to come back. They said Ziggy want to come back because nobody bailing him from prison. But let me tell them something. They want to come back, but all the thing they're doing is to criticize us.
Another beautiful Sunday afternoon. The sun is coming out and it's looking bright as usual. Well, in studio is MP Ron Redhead, and we got heated up on the road construction and so forth, but it would be great to see our local contractors have some sort of collaboration with these foreign road builders and see how they can now benefit from their presence here.
Correct.
Getting information, studies,
learning,
how you do it, equipment. You know, that Barbara Green machine runs up a couple 100 feet of road per day.
Correct.
Yeah, you know, these are the sort of things to lift the standard.
Exactly.
Lift the standard.
Exactly.
They ain't gonna be here forever.
That's the point.
They're just passing through.
They're just passing through.
You now need to take the opportunity to master the craft.
Definitely.
Right. So when government call on you to do a piece of road,
you could
bam,
get it done.
you're ready to move.
Yeah, yeah. I've met countless contractors locally, Brother Terry, as we end on this topic, who said to me, you know, they worked with some of the larger conglomerates nationally or globally. And this is how they were able to learn. They came back, they created their business because they fed off of them. So I'm saying to the local contractors who may feel in any way, shape or form, deflated, don't. Take that as an opportunity. Let me reach out to Mr. Reno. Let me reach out to Namalco. Let me reach out to them. How did you acquire this equipment? Learn from them what are do's, don'ts, and so on. And everybody could learn in that way. When I listen to the music industry, there were songs that were developed many moons ago. And for that period, it was a good song. But that same song laid the basis for either what we might call as a remix version of that same song. And it turned into another big hit in another generation. The point is, this current generation had to learn from the previous.
And that's so
knowledge must be shared. So you must not be afraid when somebody with more experience comes to the fore, like it was for the last election. Right, because I get the sense too, when we had that 9-6 and I look back at some of the former leaders' behavior, I think he was a little afraid. You know why? This experienced corporate lawyer come about and he was able to do things. Because, experience in some instances could be good or bad. So you can have experience, but it can be a lot of bad experiences which did not teach you any lesson because he was not willing to learn. Right? We spoke earlier on about listening to understand as opposed to listening to respond. So when we talk now about where we need to go, I want to encourage local contractors, learn from Reno. Go on the job site, forget people who saying about that little money and so on. Don't worry with that. Yes, you're going there for a little change, but what you're going to do is to talk to Mr. Reno, go and get a work and say, I want you to teach me how to do this retainer in short space of time, easy, etc. And he will be willing to, because he's not staying here forever. He's working all over in the Caribbean, and therefore is not reliant on a work in Grenada. So the crab in the barrel mentality needs to stop. And I would dare say, as we end, to the young contractors, don't listen to people who come in with negativity over people coming in. Always use these opportunities as lessons to enhance your craft. Worried people who are always negative and always have some bad thing to say about people. Because when they come with that, they ain't going nowhere in life, right? And they want you to remain with them and fight so they could continue benefiting. And
misery loves company.
That is a problem. That exactly hit the nail on the head. So, let's move in a different direction and embrace what is happening.
Time has run out on us, but you had to tell us about your constituency.
No, definitely. So I hope we could take a 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, as it relates, and we were speaking a little about some of the projects and so on. I can speak to the Nawasa project on the extent of what is to come as a result. So the people of Mount Parnassus, I want to say to you, finally, this issue higher up, Mount Parnassus Heights, etc., is going to be a thing of the past where you do not have water. As a result of what we are doing in terms of building the new water catchment system up in Chantilly, the aim and strategy is to complete all of the work and to be able to route water back in that area. Once and for all, the dry season woes and so on will now be a thing of the past. And I want to say too, when we think about how long some communities had to struggle with these problems, and in 4.5 years, National Democratic Congress comes into office, or in some instances less, and is able to get all of these things going. We mustn't be, in a sense, looking at the glass half empty. We must look at the glass half full. Reasons being, with a little more time, we will get a lot more done. And this is true not only in St. George Northeast, but throughout the length and breadth of the country. We focus on rebuilding Carriacou. Look at the revolution that is taking place in Carriacou as relates to infrastructure, night landing on the airport upgrade, major roads in Petit Martinique that has never been constructed in the history of Petit Martinique.
And as simple as a dental office in Petit Martinique.
Oh gosh, you hit the nail on the head again. And these things, what I'm saying is that when we look to a government, we are looking to the government to lead, one. We are looking to the government, two, to create the enabling environment. And three, possibly, we are looking to the government to make good decisions that is not just for the individual and your friend and your partisan, Yes, you could do that, right? And you could find means and ways. I can tell you I have engaged private sector individuals to help my constituents, and I'm talking supporters. In some instances, I don't use the public resources for, helping people. Somebody had to get some medical bills. We were able to raise $4,000 cash from a private business, and we then give it to them. And they could be able to run down Trinidad and do the thing. The point about it is that there are means and ways. But when you look to a politician in your constituency, must only be for what you can get. If I had adopted that idea, I wouldn't have been in NDC. I would have joined the opposition then because it was a ready-made party, and I would have get everything and just dwell in quote-unquote luxury, or the illusion of luxury, where the vast majority was not better off, but just a selected few. So joining the National Democratic Congress and going through a period, there was a period where I was volunteering my time, and at one point I didn't even have an income. My father, the late Martin Redhead, was the one supplementing that effort. And I went and learned graphic designs, and that's how I started to generate an income while actively participating in politics, because I couldn't focus on no 8 to 4 work, because nobody wanted to hear no excuse that I need to go in the field with Brother Nazim Buck or a thing, and they didn't want to hear that they had to work. So you had to find means and ways. And I'm saying all this to say, you need to have a plan. And so we are confident that we have a development plan in every constituency. Maybe the only constituency that enough work was not done, if I am to be very honest about our government, might be St. George Northwest, to the extent that we didn't have consistency there, right? For the limitations which we are all aware of. But the point is, we have even done work there. Even me, as a member of Parliament for St. George Northeast, at time and again, I have engaged the road officer for that area to get construction work done. Drains, roads, right?
Yeah,
we have assisted, we're right in boundary. And this is how I treat the neighbors. People could say what they want about me. A neighbor may not like me personally, but if I have to give school supplies, thing and so on, I don't watch face, right? I don't watch color. That's how I am. And I'm saying that is what we need. So we don't need always somebody who pretends to be the savior of all problem. Because if I could fix all problem, well, I'm supposed to be in heaven. Right? Not sitting on the earth.
Not going to heaven yet.
Well, I'm just joking about that aspect. But you know what I mean?
It for a while,
yeah, so the point is, what we need are governments who understand the people's concerns, but governments who are willing also to act for and on behalf of the people and with the people to make the solutions a reality. That's what we need. And in the National Democratic Congress, that is what you have with the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell.
Well, thank you very much. We certainly have run out of time, and just to inform the public that next Sunday, we'll be having Senator the Honorable David Andrew. We'll be talking about education and back to school and all the school supplies and vouchers and transport allowances and the whole 9 yards.
Education revolution.
Yes, education revolution. Absolutely.
Yes.
So let me give you your final parting words, please.
Right. Thank you. So we in the St. George Northeast, this Thursday, we will be having our school supplies distribution, back to school, backpacks, etc. There would be at least 2 barbers we've been able to secure. We are hopeful that we could get at least 2 more to give the children free haircuts as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you ain't cut your son here yet, feel free. Yes, feel free to come down. We always often try to assist, because we also assist barbers in our constituency, whether with mirrors, chairs, machines, that sort of things. So we do a lot of stuff that is not publicized in St. George.
You have cutting edge.
Yeah. Well, technology, digital transformation, so it must mean for something. Yeah, we have unfortunately given away the last laptop, and so we've been doing some of that prior, so we would not be able to give any devices there on the 27th, but we would assist and could assist if in future, a student or 2 requires. Again, stocks and supplies are limited, but we give what we have. And so we are willing to open our doors to our people in St. George Northeast to come down on Thursday. It will be at the MP's office starting at 9 a.m.
Great. Wonderful indeed. Well, this has been an interesting Sunday, and we have ended it on cutting edge digital transformation with the Honorable Ron Redhead.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for joining the Heartbeat today, and join us again next Sunday when we'd have equally stimulating and interesting conversations to share with you. So, see you again. Until then, have a great Sunday afternoon. Goodbye now.
When my opponent goes around and try to call my name and talk about degree, tell him I say, stop counting his words on a file paper in a public meeting and calling it a speech. Just how he walking, so he talking. We in our time for that half-dead kind of leadership. Tell him to come and buck up on me. Tell him to face me. Let us debate the issues in St. George Northeast, and we go see who really had a plan for the people and can move the people forward. I don't want to go on no fake page and try and bring down no man. I live good with everybody. Tell them anytime they try that anyway, we go settle it in the polling booth so they go see.
Some people and them. Grenada Day 2026 is on. Sunday, August 23rd at an all-new venue. South Shore High School Field, 6565 Flatlands Avenue, between Ralph Avenue and East 78th Street. Entrance on Denwood Road. Exit on Flatlands Avenue. There we go. New venue, but the same vibes. This year's Grenada Day features arts, crafts, tasty food, and music, plus performances from some of Grenada's top artists, including the veteran inspector, Young Image, Mauricia, Camille, Mr. Legs, Alma Boy, King Blake, King Kayak, and big surprises from Grenada, plus Spice Generation Dance Company, Carrico Big Drum Group, The Greenhouse Drummers, and more. Sunday, August 23rd, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tickets are only $10. Available online at www.grenadaday2026.eventbrite.com, or you can grab your tickets at La Bay Market, Yours and Mad Beauty Salon, West Cuisine, or Palms Beauty Shop. Grenada Day 2026 is sponsored by Aranza Credit Union, Williams Funeral Services, Grenada Cooperative Bank, La Bay Market, ACB Bank, Coolpot Bond Grill, Apple Bank, Star FM, and Crossroads Radio. Grenada Day 2026 is on Sunday, August 23rd. Come out and represent. I want to know.